Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. And I'm happy to be here with you today on February 2nd of 2022 to talk about something that's going on and you've probably heard about. I know most people follow entertainment more than they follow politics, and usually we don't. But as you know, Whoopi Goldberg recently diminished the deaths of millions of individuals, Jews, during World War II at the hands of the Nazis. That's just a fact. She did, in fact, do that. And she said that children should be taught that it was just a fight between two white groups. And that's that, which I think is insulting, and it diminishes the impact of World War II and why it happened. There have been a lot of people who have decided to come out on Whoopi's side. A lot of people who have decided that they need to defend Whoopi Goldberg. One of those individuals happens to be Joe Walsh, a former congressman, a supposed Republican, and someone who has a very, very definitive point of view about the public obeying the government. So I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to take that on. Now, first, if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we want to welcome you and we thank you. We appreciate you being part of our audience. We do long-form political commentary, and every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the social media that the internet overlords will allow, so that no matter where in the world you are, you can add your voice about the issues that matter to us all. And we do this because we believe in the freedom of speech, the First Amendment. It is a right that everyone in the world has, regardless of whether you're American or not, because you are born. So we hope that every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will join us for our live stream where we will talk with you and take your chats, your phone calls, your tweets, and you tell us about the important issues that are affecting us all. With that said, let's look into this. She made the disparaging remarks, which are racial in its nature, and she got called out. Something that doesn't very often happen to members of the left, especially prominent members of the left. And as a result, she has apologized for her ignorance, and then she got suspended, as we found out today. And that suspension is drawing a lot of curious commentary. In fact, this is from Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh said, Whoopi Goldberg did nothing wrong. She expressed an opinion that was uninformed. She then got informed, and she apologized. ABC News, you suck for suspending her. A suspension? What a stupid, timid world we live in. Really, Joe Walsh? Are you so ignorant to the things that are happening around you? In fact, the things that you yourself have tweeted over and over again? Let's really think about this, folks. So we have this individual who claims to be a patriot, who claims to be a Republican, a true Republican in his words, an individual who wants to say that this is an outrage. It's an overreach. How dare they silence this woman for having an opinion? Yeah, well, Joe, where have you been, Joe? Because do you not remember Spotify and the things that have been going on with Joe Rogan? That people are trying to silence Joe Rogan because he has an opinion. Joe Rogan has an opinion. He has a podcast where he speaks about his opinion, and he has on guests and members of every kind of party, political faction, every belief system, and they have all come on to his program, and he shares opinions with them. They discuss ideas, just like, how could we possibly say it? Just like Whoopi Goldberg did. She expressed her opinion. And if you're saying that Whoopi Goldberg did nothing wrong, then Joe Walsh, the man who has been demanding that people get vaccinated, that they go and accept the vaccine mandates and overreach of government by every standard, that you should obey the government, except you should forgive Whoopi Goldberg. That nothing should be done to her because she had an opinion and she expressed it. This flies right in the face of it. And it's really insulting when we think about that. And I wish I could say that that's the only time and in the only case that we have seen this. Now, obviously, again, you have seen this, that she got suspended because of her views and her comments about the Holocaust. But she's not the only one. How about this? Let's take a look. Remember Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan left ITV, Good Morning Britain, because he had an opinion and he expressed it. And what did he say? He didn't believe a word that Meghan Markle said when she was interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. That's it. He said he didn't believe a word. And that was enough for him to be punished. And Piers Morgan is anything but a conservative, anything but right-leaning. And what did he get for this? He stated in a tweet, Morgan said that he had reflected on his opinion on the Oprah interview and still did not believe Meghan Markle, adding that, quote, freedom of speech is a hill I'm happy to die on. Thanks for all the love and hate. I'm off to spend more time with my opinions. There's someone on the left. They were ostracized and beat up upon by the very same governments that Joe Walsh and others on the far left demand obedience to. But it gets even worse than that, because it didn't stop with Piers Morgan. You may recall that as a result of that, Sharon Stone lost her job. As we remember, Sharon Osbourne was on a program called The Talk, which is basically a ripoff of The View. Same idea. And she had a discussion on air. This discussion was in reference to Piers Morgan. And in that conversation, she was being equated as a racist because Piers Morgan was being told he was a racist for an opinion, to say that he did not agree. Because he didn't agree, he was made out to be a racist. And because we see here, Cheryl Osbourne defended her friend, who she knows is not a racist, and defended his right to free speech. And in doing that, she then became labeled as a racist herself, and she was removed from her program after 11 years. So there seems to be some kind of standard here, or at least multiple standards, because these are some of the left-leaning people. These are people who are promoting things like Joe Walsh. And they're telling us on the one hand, you must obey the government. Vaccine mandates are good for you. You must do what you are told regardless of your individual health and health care and your decisions with your doctor, which is the only way your health care should be discussed. And you must do that, and you must follow this government, and you must believe in the critical race theory and applications that are being taught to our children every day, teaching them that white people are evil and black people are victims, people of color are victims, and you cannot change that. And even to be able to disparage, because of that viewpoint, to disparage when we have a world war and rewriting history. Yes. That's what it means to be able to support Whoopi Goldberg at this moment. You're supporting the rewriting of history. You're disparaging peoples, many peoples, gypsies, Jews, blacks. You're disparaging them all and the suffering they all went through. What about in Russia? All of those people in the Soviet Union. You're disparaging all of them. But that's okay, because again, we hear from Joe Walsh and others who think like him, that it was just an opinion. It's okay. And again, I go back to, what about these other people with opinions? And not all of them are uninformed. Because, like Piers Morgan, he's entitled to his opinion of whether or not Meghan Markle was believable. And he didn't believe her. That is his right. But that makes him a racist according to people that follow the same ideology as Joe Walsh. We have individuals who are under that same point of view, and they're saying that Sharon Osbourne is also equally a racist because she defended Piers Morgan for having an opinion. That's not uninformed. They have and are entitled to that right. See, I believe in the First Amendment. I'm not upset that Whoopi Goldberg decided to spread her racist ideology on TV because it gave everyone in the world an opportunity to correct her, to be able to correct that bad speech with good speech, with accurate factual speak, as opposed to what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would do, which is she doesn't believe in factual, grammatical, exact statements. No, she believes in feelings. So does Whoopi Goldberg. And Whoopi Goldberg has been more and more over the years locked into this racial ideology and this viewpoint that is pushed by progressives against everything else. Yes, let the world correct her and point out how wrong she is. And yes, she should be suspended, because we've seen that happen to so many other people, like Joe Rogan as my current example, but there are many, many others that we have seen. How about when Team Sky suspended Gianni Moscone over his racist comments made with Kevin Reza? This is in 2017. And you know what's the interesting thing about this? No one knows what was actually said. This was a conversation between two individuals, Gianni Moscone and Kevin Reza. He says that he was shocked to hear that imbeciles still use racist insults on Pro Peloton. You are a shame to our sport. That's the closest anyone came to actually finding out what was said. It wasn't said publicly. No one overheard it. It was a conversation between two people. But because someone tweeted about it and that triggered people, well, then we see that Moscone had to apologize and he got punished. He was suspended. He was suspended because of his words, because he had an opinion which was uninformed, and he got informed, and then he apologized, and he got suspended, just like Whoopi did. Gee, what a shock and a surprise there. Again, going back to Meghan Markle, her child was born, and a lawyer in Britain decided that she would make a comment, a joke. And she said, "What a missed opportunity. They could have named the baby Georgina Floydina," in reference to George Floyd's murder and the opinions expressed by Meghan Markle. And because she said that, this lawyer, this woman, Joanna Toch, who created the law firm Family Law Cafe, was suspended from her own company. She had 25 years of law experience, and she created the Family Law Cafe. And it's 4 years she's had that business, and she got suspended from her own company and punished because she dared to say something that the left didn't like. And I wish I could say that was the only time we've seen something like that. How about when in Raytown, this was on September 30th of 2021. Again, another story that really didn't get around the rest of the country. But here it is. In Missouri, there was an 8th grader who said she saw a boy's post that was referring to someone as a N-word. And she was shocked and she was amazed, and she decided to go to her teacher to report the event. And the teacher told the student to go to the administration with this complaint, which the student did. The student went to the administration, not the teacher. The student went there to complain and to let them know that someone is using this derogatory term, this offensive term. And the school decided to do nothing about it. They did nothing. So the child, later on her own, decided to go online, and she shared what happened and shook her head. Said this was not appropriate. This was not right. And what was the result? What did the left-leaning ideology, what did they do? Did they punish the student who had initially started with the racist comment? Did they admonish them? Did they teach them? Did they let them learn? No, they punished the 8-year-old who presented the issue to them that asked for there to be something done. They went after that child because she said this was wrong, and they suspended her. Again, let me go back to Joe Walsh. She did nothing wrong, that 8th grader. She expressed an opinion denouncing someone using offensive and derogatory language. And then she got punished because the left doesn't care. They want obedience, not anyone doing anything good. They don't care what you're doing. They want you to be obedient. They want you to submit to the will. When it went to the administrators, that's where it was supposed to stay. Obey. You have to live by the authorities, and they have the purview to decide when and where and if they will enforce laws, rules, and regulations in their own foresight. There's so many examples of individuals, and I'm not saying that people haven't been wrong in the things they do, like the hockey player Christoph Hrabik, who got a 30-day suspension for making a racist gesture, which he thought was both a joke and it was an intimidation during a game of hockey against a black hockey player. And he got admonished for it, and he got punished for it, and he apologized for it. Just like what we see here. Did he do something wrong? Yes, he did. And he expressed his opinion. And he was uninformed. He apologized for it. He made contrition, and he got suspended. There is no difference. But, this is a political channel. And we do look at these things politically. And I want you to understand when we say that there is a world of difference, that when we see individuals like Joe Walsh protecting Whoopi Goldberg, when we see people coming out and protecting Whoopi Goldberg, it's in the blatant disregard for what also violates their very same rules. How about this? Joe Biden says poor kids are just as bright as white kids. A very racial statement that he made that everyone was paying attention to on August 9th of 2019. It was yet one example of his racist nature. A nature, and I say that because he has repeatedly been making statements over years, as we see here on July 7th of 2021, as identified by the Heritage Organization. Let's give a couple of quick hits of Joe Biden. Let's see. In August of 2020, we saw that Joe Biden went out and said, quote, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things. He's also said in May of 2020 that, as he spoke to Charlemagne, that black people, if you vote for Trump or anyone else, you're not black. You have to vote for him. Which makes us understand Joe Biden thinks black people don't think differently. They're not individuals. They're just one amorphous group. What else has Joe Biden said? 2010, we see that Joe Biden was very happy to go to and eulogize Senator Robert Byrd, a former exalted Cyclops in the Ku Klux Klan. In 2007, this is one that really pissed me off at the time. Joe Biden referred to Barack Obama as the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean. There are 1,000 things wrong with this statement. And please, you cannot tell me that Joe Biden didn't know, that he was uninformed, that he didn't know a thing about Barack Obama or black people when he made this statement. It is insulting, and it is wrong, and it is racist, and Joe Biden got a pass. 2006, Joe Biden said you cannot go into a 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. How many times and how many statements do we have to go through with Joe Biden that he is over and over again? How about something from June 2nd of 2021? Joe Biden is saying, the data shows young black entrepreneurs are just as capable of succeeding given a chance as white entrepreneurs, but they don't have lawyers. They don't have accountants. They just have great ideas. To which many people, including those who are black, saying, I'm black, I know exactly where to get lawyers and accountants, you racist. Wow. So not only are we incapable of using the internet, we can't afford nor find lawyers and accountants neither. The mind of a white liberal, I swear. And Joe Biden, by the way, is someone who Joe Walsh multiple times a day defends to the end of the earth, a actual racist, someone who is repeatedly and consistently through decades has been recorded being racist, making racist comments. And you want to tell me that he's uninformed? He knows what he's doing. And he has been corrected on this many, many, many times. And he has never apologized for what he says. He's sorry for the way people understand him, but he isn't sorry for what he says. And yet, Joe Biden's never been suspended. And Joe Walsh would be adamant that you can't punish him for these statements. And he's not the only one protecting Joe Biden as an example, because the left will protect those of their own when they want to. How about we see the fact check from Snopes? Did Biden say minorities don't know how to register for online vaccines in February of 2021? And they want to say, well, it's mixed. There's context here. You have to understand this. No, what did Joe Biden actually say? He was asked this question very clearly. He was asked, is this a priority for the Biden administration, and how will the disparities be addressed? Speaking to the less than 3% of blacks and less than 5% of Hispanics that are taking on the vaccines. Joe Biden actually answered the question by saying, a lot of people don't know how to register. Not everybody in the community, in the Hispanic and the African American community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner districts, know how to get online to determine how to get in line for that COVID vaccination at the Walgreens or a particular store. He's talking about, in his entire answer, he's talking about America getting vaccines. He's talking about speaking to the Black Caucus, which isn't answering any of the questions. He says that people, where is it here? I'm making sure that there are doses of vaccines in over 6,700 pharmacies because almost everyone lives within not always walking distance, but within the distance of being able to go to the pharmacy, like when you got your flu shot. That is now also being upped. This is stupid. Because he then also goes on to say, for example, even though everyone is basically within 5 miles of a Walgreens, let's say the fact is that you're 70 years old, you don't have a vehicle, and you live in a tough neighborhood, meaning that it's high concentration of COVID, you're likely to not be able to walk 5 miles to get a vaccine. Didn't you just say that, literally say, that while it's not always within walking distance, but within distance of being able to go to the pharmacy, people are within distance to go to pharmacies? He's making up his own excuse that he's already proven is wrong. But that doesn't change what he said about black people. It didn't change what he said about Hispanics and their capability of being able to go online and to be able to access information. So you can't say this is out of context. The context is he said out of his own decision, out of his mind, that black people can't use the internet. That had nothing to do with whether or not they're getting vaccinated. He said they can't do it. They're not capable. It's not in question. But the left wants you to think it's in question because the left is playing with a bunch of rules. There's rules for those elected officials that they like. There are rules for entertainers that are on the right side of politics at any given moment. There are rules for those who are pushing their agenda, and then there are rules for those who have nothing to do with that are on the other side, the enemy, the right. And they will attack anyone, and the moment you step off the reservation, they will punish you. And in the rare instance where we see the rules apply equally to someone like Whoopi Goldberg, as it does to, say, a Pierce Morgan or a Sharon Osbourne, or to you and me, or a child in an elementary school, When those rules are being applied to us, well, we get punished instantly. And there's no outrage on that, but there's plenty of outrage for Whoopi Goldberg. Joe Walsh, you don't make any sense. I do not think Joe Walsh makes any sense. And I think in full context, looking at his daily excuses for the Biden administration and his absolute willingness to ignore the racist comments and commentary that comes out of the mouth of Joe Biden for decades, and to hear that Joe Walsh is more than willing to demand that people must obey the government without question, regardless of their individual health needs, to hear him come out and say, well, Whoopi Goldberg, she's innocent. How dare you punish her like I want everyone else to be punished? Joe Walsh, you are the problem. But maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think Joe Walsh has got it right. Maybe you think the examples I provided aren't a duplicity, this is what we can do, not what you can do. Maybe you think we've not understood the situation. We'd like to hear your comments. And we also hope that every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will join us in our live stream to discuss any and all the issues that matter to you.